A blessed good night to one and all. Welcome to another episode of DLP TV. I'm your host, Ramon Goodman. Tonight, we tackle one of the most pressing issues facing our nation, surviving in these harsh economic times and food security. As many Barbadians are all too aware, making ends meet has become an increasingly daunting challenge. With too many families living paycheck to paycheck, the reality is that our everyday struggles are intensifying against the backdrop of an unpredictable global marketplace with looming threats of tariffs and uncertain economic currents. We're witnessing a situation where the policies in place seem to burden the average citizen relentlessly, all while allowing generous concessions to flow to the well-to-do. On tonight's show, our esteemed panel will delve into these challenges head-on. We'll examine not only how these economic pressures are impacting our daily lives, but also explore actionable strategies to bolster food security and build resilience in our communities. Joining me tonight are Mrs. Amoy Gilding-Bourne, the opposition spokesperson on agriculture and the green economy. She's also the DLP candidate for the constituency of Christchurch East. Miss Felicia Dujon, spokesperson on education. Miss Malissa Howard, entrepreneur. Dr. Derek Alleyne, former trade unionist and executive secretary of the Leader of Opposition. The Democrat Labour Party presents to you honest voices for the people, and these honest voices will dissect governmental policies, share expert insights, and discuss practical solutions to navigate these turbulent times. Welcome to our esteemed panel, and you are cherished audience. Let me begin by asking each panelist, let's just say a little bit about yourselves. You can start with Malissa.
Hi, my name is Malissa Howard. I'm the ambassador for single mothers and children.
Yes, please. Yes.
Well, I am Mrs. Gilding-Bourne, affectionately known as Amoy. And as my colleague would have just indicated, I'm the candidate for Christchurch East and the spokesperson on agriculture and the green economy.
I'm Derek. I'm working among these young people. I'm always blessed to be around. Keeps me feeling young.
We let Derek.
You don't know. Listen, we're gonna have a fantastic show, a lovely conversation here tonight. So that's a question. How do current government policies contribute to or hinder our ability to secure sustainable food supplies during these times or times of crisis? Example, the transfer of agricultural land to housing. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
One of the biggest problems we have.
Huge.
I think I need to give a little background. You know, very often we come to the periods of our development and we make a comment. We are at the crossroads, and that becomes to me a cliche that is used when you are trying to study where you are and where to go. But Barbados, as a former sugar plantation, always had in the early days struggles to keep its food supply for its locals on par with what was required. You know, slaves were given sweet potato and a piece of salt fish.
Yeah.
But with the coming of independence, an effort was made in the late 60s and 70s to build out sufficient food to feed ourselves. And that's where the Barbados Manufacturing Corporation, BMC, was formed. And in the late 60s and 70s, we had trawlers going to Guyana bringing in shrimp, fish. We really started to look at new avenues to feed ourselves. Incentives were given to planters to do sweet potatoes and yams. We had a big onion crop. And therefore, flying fish became popular because incentives were given to fishermen to look for fish on markets and so on. And then, of course, then in the 80s, we had another thing where we were saying we became at the crossroads again. Then the government changed again, and in the 90s, we started to reach out. Remember, early in the days, can't read the phrase we were talking about feed yourself, grow your own food, and so on. And then we found new energies at the BMC again to build out a Barbadian food supply. Now we've come full circle again. And this, you may know, honestly, this government always takes the easy way out. Allowing importation of rabbits, sheep, pigs, goats, everything is the easy way out. You provide import license. I always remember the days of Brown Frontier fighting the merchants for trying to kill poor people with cost and bringing cost measures to run the DLP out of government. And in came the new government, opened up the market, they bought everything. You could go and buy rabbits and cans. You know, you could go into the market now and you can import tamarins. Anything it was on the shelf. The cost. It's a cost to the local production, and it's also a cost of foreign exchange. So I'm saying is that we've gone full cycle, and this government is happy through all its tradition to align imports flow, making markups at the poor cost, through poor cost, markups in VAT. They will reduce some of the VAT on foods, but not on all foods, and they call some foods luxury foods. They just went recently and put a tax on salt and sugar. We want a reduction in the price of quality foods, the good foods, the ones that we must have. You can reduce the glut and give more farmers opportunity to buy seedlings, plant seedlings, provide incentives for small farmers. Allow me to go my little backyard and give me some incentive. Reduce the cost of seedlings, reduce the cost of seeds, reduce the cost of water for people with a little small plot in the backyard. Those are incentives that will make sense to me. But this government is comfortable with raking off money off the top for importations. That's why we all have a crisis whenever this government is in office. We will always have, because they are like to do markups and raking VAT, raking special taxes on food.
What I'm going to ask you, right? I know the government, they always talk about people in Barbados. They're not, people in Barbados aren't interested in agriculture. What do you say?
I got
that's the government excuse, huh?
You know, I got 6 garden beds. I mean, next door to the house. 6 garden beds. I can go by me, you can get thyme, you can get basil, you can get voyagers. I picked last week cabbage. You know what I'm saying? My friend George got cauliflower and he gardened. Everybody got all this space to make an effort. I mean, no Bajan that has space to do 4 beds. Some people do them in cans, in tires. So to make a comment that Barbadians don't like
not interested.
That's folly. I guess my colleague here can speak to you about her tree program.
But yeah, because I would also like to add to what Mr. Alleyne is saying is that when I was given away, or I'm still, because so far it's 92 trees, fruit trees that I have provided.
But before you go on, I want to thank you. Thank you for that program. That is fantastic.
Okay, no
That's
problem.
the first thing. Kudos to you, and keep doing your thing.
Yes.
Keep doing your thing. No matter what, keep doing your thing.
Understood.
Right? Sorry.
And having engaging with the community and handing out these fruit trees and stuff, I was able to see persons within their home element.
Yes.
And we always know, or we hear, Barbadians like a kitchen garden, like a backyard garden. So many people are growing stuff at home. I was in Hopewell. The lady showed me she has carrots, thyme, lettuce. She has chickens, about 7 or so chickens, so that her family gets eggs, because everybody in the family loves eggs. So And that's only one out of, and I told you I gave about 90, I think it's 92, 92 fruit trees. So I've been around to 92 people and families and seen what they are doing home. And it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this position right now. But the lady that I was speaking to in Hopewell, she has nationality from Guyana, and she's been living in Barbados for the last 40 years or so. And she juxtaposed what's going on in Barbados with our food security issues and Guyana couple decades ago. And one of the things that stuck out to me, and I made an Instagram post about it, is that she said that at the time, the Prime Minister was saying, produce or perish. And that's exactly what we have to do in Barbados. Either produce or we will perish. Because the food security challenges we're having is directly related to the death of our agricultural industry. We are not self-sufficient. We are, unfortunately, a country of consumers. That's basically it. We're bringing more food than we actually grow here. Should, God forbid, something such as the COVID-19 pandemic happen to cross us again, and we were forced to shut down our borders, and we were forced to not take stock or not receive stock on items, foodstuffs from outside. How are we going to survive?
We can't. I mean, COVID should have already taught us. COVID should have already taught us.
I often make the point. In the 70s, I come from Goodman. There was every 20 yards with a kitchen garden. With a kitchen garden. Mr. Moore kept cows, Chandler had cows, and so on. And we never had a problem with milk. Last year you can't get milk. And one time Pine Hill used to got so much milk, the people used to feel like they were throwing it away and using it to feed the pigs and all anything.
Took that for granted.
Yeah, we just
Like 2%.
no, we don't have a problem with milk. I mean, that is unheard of, and it has to do with policy. Right? It has to do with policy. And I didn't get a chance to go to the annual exercise in Queen's Park this year. But that is something that we need to understand the plight of the farmer and the struggles that I'm not even getting into getting back to the importation of things that we don't need. But I know there was an international problem with eggs, right? Yes. What have we done to prepare ourselves for any such eventuality again? What policy instruments, what ideas of our government?
I haven't heard anything.
There's nothing. There's what we can
Because
do.
you know why? Because we are not a proactive government, or the government of this day is not a proactive government. They're a reactive government. So even though that we're having a problem with the eggs overseas, I think in North Carolina, or where we source our eggs from, and they are not interested. Right? They're not interested in trying to formulate some sort of contingency plan should we have that sort of issue here in Barbados.
Well, I don't know if anyone knows this, but or what is going on. But to me, the milk is expiring extremely quickly. I don't know if my fridge is working.
I don't get none, so I can't find it.
No, I made sure. The expiry date. I saw a cartoon of milk. The expiry date is the 25th of June, and we bought it when, well, I think it was last week or something like that. And it gone off. It gone right off. So I can let the man who's deal with fridges check my fridge because something wrong. Ain't making no sense to me. Ain't making no sense. When we talk about lands, what is some of the lands that the government taking up for these concrete jungles and so forth? And I think they some of them can be used for agriculture. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's agricultural land, as you said, it's being transferred for housing. And even when these houses are sold to the market, the amount of space that you're left with is not enough to have a garden. So you said you are telling people to grow food, but they don't have any space to grow the food. So recently we saw an article with the pig farmers having an issue of getting their porks sold. You mentioned the merchants. The merchants are bringing in all the pork. So the port suppliers in Barbados are having a very difficult time getting their produce sold. So what are we going to do? You know, what legislation are we going to put in place to help the farmers?
So you would think that you would say that government is catering to the big McGuffies?
No, it's short term. It's the easy way out. Listen, I was the director in 2008 when the changed. One of the exciting programs that the government suggested it would embark on was utilizing unoccupied buildings in existing communities rather than go out and interfere with virgin land or agricultural land. That program lasted only in talk. It was dismissed within 3 months. I was director urban, and although we developed a framework for starting the program, and $2 million were supposed to be assigned to identify and to deal with these buildings and make them habitable, the program just disappeared. And we're going back to taking the agricultural land for new housing. When we identified, this government identified that the early effort housing should be concentrated on existing communities, non-unoccupied buildings, and so on.
But we talk about selling, but they get away. They get away land. They get away land. You talk about selling, but they get away. One of our viewers, I'm thankful to all the viewers actually watching, and I love the interaction so far. We have a call. What the PM highlighted as a visa threat from the US may likely become a food security problem for entire Caribbean as we import the majority of our food from the US. Class point, Heather.
What the front of the class.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you are absolutely correct, miss. You are absolutely correct.
I think we got to thank the leader opposition for drawing her out.
Of course,
Because up until he raised the issue of the other people in the Caribbean put in their positions, Barbadians were not aware of any position the Prime Minister had on the threat from the United States and our relationship with Cuba. But what was remarkable to me was the Prime Minister, she would give up her visa. My Prime Minister doesn't need a visa to enter anywhere. The Prime Minister is the ambassador. and that is...
Does she have a diplomatic passport?
Yes,
No, that's a selling point.
People jump off.
That's a selling point.
Man, give me a break.
Yeah, that's a selling point. Don't worry, that is just a selling point.
It's unfortunate that we are in the kind of political
environment,
instability of not only, in our region, but internationally as well, because based on what is going on in the United States, where there is something happening every 2 seconds, can't keep up with President Trump at the moment. But we really have to take stock not only of what's happening in Barbados, but I'm a CARICOM baby.
Yes.
And I think that is unfortunate that we are here and we are barely standing on legs of CARICOM. Had CARICOM or had the states or the members of CARICOM took CARICOM more seriously, we would be in a prime position to tell certain people to go and fly a kite over Uncle Charlie fence.
Yes.
But we can't do that because we still require certain things from them. And food is one of the biggest things.
Of course.
And we are in trouble if we do not rectify that.
I hope Barbados don't forget that the last effort that President of the United States, Trump, sought to divide this Caribbean by inviting some people to the White House, forgetting some. We should have learned lessons from that and try to build a common position in this region about dealing with interference and the lack of regional support from the Trump administration to this region. Now we are caught in a cycle now that we don't know how Jamaica is going to respond, how Antigua is going to respond.
Yes, we should have had a united front.
We should have called for a caucus right away. Right, but we have a minister, a minister coming out, I think it's named Abrahams or Abrams or something like that,
Yeah.
Right. He came up very early. Next day or 2 days, we are ready. The Barbados is ready. You can't be ready unless the rest of the region and you hold hands and build a common position that we stand together on. What the Saints of Barbados being ready, in his words, St. Lucia ain't ready, Grenada ain't ready, Jamaica. What message are we saying? We trying to tell people that we are Goliath. Just remember, it took a deal with it. It took a deal with it.
So what's going on with the animals in terms of our climate and so forth? You know, things were mentioned about heat and stuff like that.
Well, I remember it was last year they were saying, but it is very hot. It is extremely hot, and the heat is going to increase. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was last year the government gave some small farmers, poultry farmers, some funds to aerate the chicken pens and so forth to keep them keep them at a certain temperature. And they said that it was very successful. They said it was very successful.
Yeah, but that was announced again this year in the budget. Yeah.
But we haven't heard what has become of those farmers. If it was so successful and those farmers that were given that initiative or given those funds, you know, were able to change how they do what they do for the better, why haven't we been replicating that? Why has it taken so long now to come back and say anything? We don't even know if those farmers are, or what is going on with those farmers.
But you're reactive.
Reactive.
And you responded to a year, I think last year or year before, to a situation. But then there should be an ongoing program.
We haven't heard anything else about those farmers, about those chicken pens. They told us that we were going to get other small farmers and chicken pens retrofitted, but we haven't heard anything about that. So
the crisis is over. We finished. Next issue.
I don't know.
Next issue.
Because I mean, we importing all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many people that come up and they say, you know, I want to get into this, I wanted to get into to agriculture, etc., etc. And you know, the government is portraying a message of no one wants to get into this thing.
Farming is not easy enough. Agriculture is not a pia industry. If you are not passionate about agriculture, if you are not passionate about food, if you are not passionate about what you're doing, you as well as, I don't know, find something else to do, because you won't get through it, agriculture or farming. It is very difficult. It is a labor of love. And whilst there are persons who want to get into agriculture, some just don't have the means. They may have the knowledge, but lack of funds is a great deterrent for a lot of people getting into agriculture. And then when you hear farmers that have been farming for 30 plus 40 years who crying out, how is that an incentive for young people to come and farm when they realize that the government is not paying the farmers any attention? Look, I have a space at Spencer's. Right now, as we would have recently heard, anyhow, and in that acre of land that we farm, you know, we grow cassava, squash, melon, and we have probably, I think, about 11 or 12 farmers up there, and all of us have problems with water. Whether it be the water pressure too low, whether it be someone tampering with our water tank. Now, mind you, it's not one or two farmers. It's almost all of us have this issue with our water tanks being tampered with. The tanks provide water to our crops, which obviously suffer. We have issues with monkeys. Now, in Darwin, the Minister of Agriculture recently paid a visit to Spencer's and made several promises to the farmers at Spencer's, none of which have materialized. He said that he would cut down the trees and debush the area, level the land so that we could extend the farming land so that other persons can engage in farming and to get rid of the monkeys. However, he told us about a monkey control troop. Correct me if I'm wrong. What's happening with that? I'm not sure we heard anything about that, but I would like to know what's happening because the farmers are having problems with the monkeys who are eating the crops, mashing up the crops, the ones that they don't carry along the pipe and just put there. Monkeys can split.
And there's tricky fellas.
Yes.
There's tricky fellas. They talk things out here and
Well,
things.
I have a very good friend who has land in St. Joseph. And he took what is it? Or BS man.
James
Up to his property in St. Joseph. Showed us the system that he devised and adapted from equipment he bought in Miami. And he had an orchard where he never got born fruit from it. Once he installed that system, he had no problem with monkeys. I think he was trying to encourage small farmers to seek him out, and he was willing to show them his what he has done, and he was even willing to help some of them to develop that system. Like off the area, I can give you the talk. And I'm certain that he would be grateful if people would visit because he's very generous. So I didn't give him permission to call his name right.
Humane ways, because
Yes.
back in the day, you just
It's not
don't
shooting them, killing them, or that. It's to deter them from coming on the property.
Because I know there was a $75 a tail, a monkey. That was a thing, a scheme that was going on. $75 a tail.
Really?
Definitely. A couple of years back, I don't know if the program has stopped, but obviously don't encourage the killing of any animals. But it was $75 a tail.
Especially green monkey, come on.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's a pest.
But the
But at the end of the day-
monkeys have to eat.
Yeah.
And if we inhibit if we interfere and take over their habitat, they can come up our crops. So we may need to go into the interland and plant some guavas and some ackee trees and mango trees and keep them in that location. I don't know, but it seems to be a problem, and we need to find a solution if the farmers are to reap the benefits of their labor.
Because I know for a fact, right, that they can become extremely troublesome and so forth, and they could really damage your crops in a serious way, serious way. And they're very intelligent. They also tease your dogs. They go on top the fence or whatever and do whatever they need to do and tease the and they can be extremely intelligent. I want to talk about. I heard plans of vertical planting. Farming.
Crate farming.
Yes, you see, you know the terms.
I don't know.
You know the
I may have
terms.
something different to say, but it's not feasible
Yes.
for farming. What are we gonna do? Grow thyme, lettuce, and kale? We need ground provisions. So while I understand that the Ministry of Agriculture is looking for new and innovative ways to inject this agricultural industry, crate farming is not it. It also uses a lot of water. Where are we? In Barbados.
Yes.
A water scarce society.
What they say.
So I don't think, I'm happy that they're thinking outside of the box. And I'm happy that they're thinking about, new innovative ways, but that is not going to suit Barbados. It is not going to work. It isn't. Just like how growing rice in Barbados thing will work.
So because we want to,
how are we planning that?
exactly, there we go, right? We're going in the rights. I don't know what it entails.
What was the pineapples earlier? The pineapple was the kickoff too.
Well,
that don't disappear.
The gentleman, I think his name is Devon Slater from Orange Hill, right? I'm gonna come and see you soon.
There we go.
I think that's wonderful what he's doing down there with pineapple. I love pineapple.
Me too.
Right? And I don't know, that's why I encourage people to travel. If you ever go to Antigua or Guyana, check out their pineapples. Their pineapple farmers, how they organize. Sweet. We can do that here too. And Mr. Slater is the prime example. I mean, I commend him. I do.
I think another area that we need to look at the possibility is honey. bottle of honey,
yeah.
I know it's so expensive.
$32 for one a deal.
No, that's what I mean.
And that's crazy.
And they have to buy honey because I have to treat a problem in my throat.
Yes.
And it's expensive. So I try to get I'm not a sugar person generally, but sometimes I gotta take a teaspoon of sugar because the honey price up in the air. And maybe it's an area that the ministry can find incentives to help farmers move towards development of industry in honey. I don't know much about it, but I know that I love honey.
But the BADMC at one point in time, you know, they had a program going on where they were teaching the farmers about bee husbandry and stuff like that. I'm not sure how well that did, but something like that, you know, should be brought back or thought about in greater detail.
Yeah. Melissa, you ever dabbled in any type of farming?
I grow things at home, to be honest.
Yeah,
Nice. Wow.
farming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a breadfruit tree,
Mhm.
bananas,
Mhm.
green bananas.
Because you like sky pudding.
Mhm.
And like Derek, I have some thyme growing,
Mm.
some marjoram,
Mhm.
you know, the simple things, in your garden, peppers,
Yeah.
lettuce.
Mhm.
So I can sustain myself. a bit.
So in terms of preparation, in terms of growing them, right? I don't know if you monitor, you go there every day to water. How
I usually go on evenings.
evenings.
Yeah.
And it's like a little relaxing session for you. Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm
Mhm.
finished, I would sit down in the garden and just relax and
Yeah.
take in the atmosphere.
Yeah, but I dabbled in it a little bit as well too. My father,
Your father?
yes, he had a little chicken farm. No, hold on. I get in there, right? He had a little chicken farm, and then I took over a little bit. And one thing I remembered, there was a downpour rain, and the pens had in a leak, and all the water went into those pens. And my father watched me, right? He said, "Well, he's a little grady. He ain't getting in there without that chicken or that chicken excrement." And I went there with my boots, and I took out all the chickens from the wet pen and put them in his dry pen. Yeah, man. But it's very time consuming, but it is a pleasure. There's no doubt about it. I love it. I love to see things grow like normal.
And I said there are some things each of us may have a thing. Plant spinach.
Yeah.
I got 4 spinach vines.
Yeah.
Plant spinach. You basic things. And you can't go wrong with spinach. You cannot go wrong with spinach. So little things like that. We can help each other and move away from the rice and peas and use spinach and rice. Let's spinach cakes. All of those are things that we got encouraging. The ministry should be when we used to make love, what can't make the friends up. Can't make some food first, business must have food, take food first.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun made.
Yeah. I mean, even something like community garden. Say, like in my community parish land, we had a community garden. If we had a community garden, that would be able to, sustain some members of the community. Granted, everybody might not want, to say, "Oh, well, I get infected from the community garden." They just pray this kill them. But something like that would also be useful, not only as stress reliever, exercise, provision of good homegrown food, healthy food, for community members, and whatever is extra could be sold to market, given to other surrounding communities.
The get is to get people interested in growing. I remember when we started a garden competition among Connect Suburban, and it lasted for 3 or 4 years. We encourage people to get away from the concrete around their houses and let some green come up. And it made very, very good. I think it's gone now. But our aim was to move away only from gardens and start to get to food. But we want to start with gardens because that was the easier part of the greening of urban houses. And I hope that still we get back to that. It was an initiative by one of our officers who suggested let green urban barriers.
Well, I can ask the question now. Again, grow on the table. What is one of the most difficult plants to grow in your experience? Well, one of the plants you've had challenges with.
Time. Give me strength. Chinese time tree no. Yeah, then he's going to put off these pieces. Smell the same way.
Mhm.
But Bayesian time, give me cramp.
What do you say, Amoy?
Well, Amoy.
Amoy.
Why?
Definitely.
For me,
Mhm.
I tried growing strawberries.
No, that's heavy.
And
Oh boy.
we're on 2 occasions. And my last set of seeds, I don't know. I know what happened. I don't know. I'll try again.
I plant some yams last year. Keeping at them when they cleaning them, making sure. And when they dig them, I get them was bigger than header. Then planted them again. Another issue with me was carrots. Another difficult one. I can plant beets every day. Get some big beets. Yeah, carrots.
They talk about this thing you got plant in hand. They got plant in hand. A green thumb? A green thumb.
A green thumb.
A green thumb.
That runs in my family.
A green. That's what they call a green thumb.
Yeah,
Well,
green thumb.
okay, I big grandmother is called a planting hand
that
or
too.
something like that. Yeah, planting hand.
But
Yeah.
most people find onions difficult to grow. Yeah.
I never.
Is it what is it? The watering, the amount of frequent time you have to water them? What is that? The
recommendation of
The directions. Yeah.
direction for
University of YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's AI.
Yeah.
The BA DMC is encouraging the farmers to use farmer AI. So you can go and ask farmer AI a question and get your information.
I would say in this day and age, you don't have, in terms of learning, you don't have much excuses when you don't know something.
Unless you gotta learn it.
Well, there we go. But you don't,
Information is definitely out there and at your fingertips.
Definitely, because I never put out a tank. Well, the first time I put out a tank was a couple of weeks ago, and I went online and learned how to put out and a banner too. So these things you can definitely.
You gotta be not thin hand,
Well, fair enough as well too. Fair enough as well too.
Thin hand when it comes to them things like giving very easy. Patience. You do that.
Yeah, very tedious.
How about animals? I know some people they raise a lot of rabbits and chicken and so forth and ducks and ducks. I used to see a lot of ducks.
My mother's 90 years old. She's still got ducks in her.
I've never tasted duck, but my uncle
very, 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 very rich.
Yeah?
Very rich.
No, we can link up. We can link up for sure because
this morning my mother bought number 6.
Really?
I don't eat duck eggs from try the raw.
Yeah. Okay. In terms
good for Bayesian pudding.
Okay, I think in terms of the animals now growing, right? I think some of the viewers, I myself to want to know, say a pig, how long does it take a pig to get to maturity?
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
About 6 months?
It depends on where you live.
Yeah.
You can rear pigs in some districts. The people can go and complain. Don't care
Okay.
or you reduce the smell or you put in your
How frequent you wash down the pan.
yeah. Some people just don't want to know. I mean, I'm telling you that that's the issue that I find really the one in the port, but the one somebody to raise the pig. You know what I mean? I grew up, and before I left to go to foundation school, I lived on Black Rock. Got on mornings, wash down the pig pen, they put the cesspool, throw the cesspool in a special, the drippings in a special area or into the canal, and then I had to go to the beach to bathe. Because you don't want to throw all the GS fuel on you. So you rent the Brandons and wash off the pig smell and then catch the bus at the school. That was normal daily exercise for boys in Goodman in my time. All of us get pigs. And when it was time to sell the pork, your mother you go around to the neighbors and ask who want a pound. A pound and after buying men 5 pounds on a leg, on a shoulder, a pound and a half. 2 pounds, them is big sizes. 2 pounds is big sizes. And you go to the shop and you get the feed bags, and you wrap the pork in it. And then in the morning when they deliver me and Vincent, my brother, all through the gap delivering the pork. That is how we grew up. Now to raise a pig in some of these communities, people got a problem.
A big problem.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned the feed for the pigs?
BFE.
How yes, how expensive?
You know, it was BFE then, and also the breadfruits that drop, old bananas that rust off, anything that you throw away, the pig was there for that. We had to waste.
Easiest animal to feed, a pig.
Nothing to waste.
That's correct.
The cost of feed though.
About $50.
About $50. Okay. So I mean, I've been doing a little bit of math here.
And then
Generally,
we got sheep and goats, all of those things. Goat in my time, my mother used to give me goat every year. I hate those goats. Goat, you know, go away, idiot.
Yeah.
You can imagine I 40 pounds or 50 pounds, and I got put in the goat, and he put in me back of the gap. You ran falling, he is stepping in, and I go, and you're moving, and they crying, he ain't moving. And if a big boy don't pass, oh, he ran. I don't know that goat ain't moving.
I know a gentleman. He used to get a butter evening. Every evening he used to get a good butt. Yeah. You should get a good butt.
You know, you got tired. You can't let we used to call it meat then. You cut the grass, you got tired. Everybody go and touching it, we drop on the ground. And I 7 years old. I'm 7 years old, and I got a goat, and as I get that, my mother sell that one, he won't sell another one. Another one.
But I believe, right, in order for our children of today to have these types of experiences, no, we need to start in primary school. Because it is unfortunate that everybody doesn't have parents or the space to do that kind of stuff. My 11-year-old is bringing sheep. I mean, much to his fashion, sometimes he's so active, like, Mommy, listen, go and bring the sheep. And he'd be like, Mommy, go and bring the sheep. But if we were to be able to, I think it was, don't quote me, I understand to be corrected, but I think it's St. Joe's Public School. That has a program, and they have rabbits and chickens, and they have a little kitchen garden, and they grow stuff. And I think it is so important for them to get that type of exposure at that early age. We have to plant the seeds from those, from the primary schools. You think that St. John's got a program like that, and me as the Minister of Agriculture is not going to make it mandatory and a part of the syllabus, primary school syllabus for children or primary schools not to have that. That must be across the board.
Competition between the primary schools. Yes. And to take the best of the primary schools.
Yes.
The thing is that Paul is gone again.
And not only that, we extend it to the secondary schools, and then we can use excess produce to circumvent the price of goods and help school meals. Then we can also provide produce to, I don't know, the Sterling's Children's Home. What else? The geriatric hospital. What the prison. Who is not self-sufficient. And despite the fact that I have mentioned this earlier in a Facebook and Instagram post, that shows that the minister is listening to me. I have to check and see who watching me on my Facebook.
You gotta be careful too.
Because I talked about the prison not having an agricultural program, and then within the next day, I saw a certain minister at the ministry, at the prison, talking about their food program and whatever it is they're doing. What's going on with that? Or that was just for show?
But the agricultural land, which is right opposite the prison, is now converted into houses.
That's correct. So and the land down at Waterford Bottom, one time the prison had, active land down at Waterford Bottom, good couple acres down there. Greatly reduced. It's no fat gardens. There's nothing botanical about down there.
I like that pun, planting the seeds in your school. Oh man, no, that's a good one. I mean,
I think effort must be made to get 4 years in school going again. I don't know what the ways to get it done, but I think some effort, some discussion should happen with the schools, years, and so on, how we can incentivize the schools to at least make an effort. You may not get 30, you may get 15, you may get 10, but it's the main effort. You not only encourage the children to get involved in it, but also send a message in the direction where the school is.
Oh yeah, and then like I visited the Ministry of Agriculture library. I know that none of y'all have been down there recently. How would they want to have school tours for primary school children and stuff going to our Ministry of Agriculture? And there looked like a Cold War cell painted in gray, cabinets all over. The information is old. The pamphlets are old. 2015, 2012.
Oh.
Like I was disappointed.
I'm surprised it wasn't painted in red. To be honest with you, it was like, shocking.
No, in order for it to be painted in red, they would have had to have gone there recently.
So,
They
so
Absent.
an event like AgroFest. I don't know if you. I mean, a lot of parents that take the children to AgroFest. You think we need another yearly event like that?
Because we need school fest.
You need
Yeah,
school fest.
When all the schools provide us not only with agricultural things, things that they make, things that they build, toys, models, things like that. Encourage the children. You know, we lost the strength of community building up things. Our communities, we used to got things. Smith man, the community, a man that got sheep and doing milking, where the boys going to the milk of cow. We have lost that. The only structure that remains for us to manipulate, to develop how we want to go, is the school. And we need to use whatever techniques we can to get all of these lost community activities and enterprising events and issues into our school system. And so that there is a foundation, there's a nursery for everything that we want to do at going development.
Because believe it or not, some of the children, the younger little ones, the first time or the only time they will see a cow or chicken or somebody is that AgroFest. Shocking. Shocking. You understand?
With the
Shocking.
cashew.
Shocking.
Got children done with the cashew.
Yeah. Shocking.
A fat board.
Yeah.
You know the good thing that these folks around the street now, the ones that the gas stations, that 10 or 15 years ago, some children didn't know it was a chicken. When you see it when it comes to the supermarket.
And some of them thought it was a pretty color too, because they had dyes. They had like chickens dyed all types of fancy colors and so forth. So you would think that a chicken is all types of funny colors. You know, so I think AgroFest is decent event, and we probably want to have another event like that, or spruce it up a little bit. Spruce it up a little bit for sure.
They have AgroFest and make it so that the schools are as easy for the schools to bring the children. I don't know. I don't think AgroFest this year was on a school day.
No,
Usually the schools take the children to AgroFest when they were home.
Right. So this year it wasn't like that, and I guess that might
I wonder what was the thinking about the lack of thinking behind that.
Lack of coordination between ministries and so on.
As usual, which is standard.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. I went to AgroFest a couple times, and I found it educational. I mean, I would have seen a lot of the animals that were presented there, and I think, as I said before, it's a decent program.
But what I didn't like about AgroFest this year, but I can't say this year because I don't know if they do it before, but when I went to AgroFest this year, what I thought was so upsetting, I went to the National Conservation booth. They were giving away fruit trees, and I went for a Bajan cherry tree. You know, these people don't grow Bajan cherry trees.
Not a local one.
Jamaican.
You know that they are not propagating the Barbados cherry tree.
I want you to say that again, please, because I didn't know that. That's shocking.
Oh, I mean, come on, tell me if I'm wrong. But I asked the lady, and she told me we do not have Bajan cherry trees.
You can't call it
I thought it
Bajan
was-
cherries, eh?
I thought it was
Can't call
because
it Bajan cherries. That's
they ran out of the Bajan cherry trees
Mhm.
at Agrifest, and they didn't have any more there.
Mm.
So I inquired as to, well, where would you be getting any more? She was like, you may hear me, we don't have none of them, we don't grow them. I was like, what you mean? You don't grow them,
Mm.
or y'all are not propagated Bajan cherry. That's madness.
Yeah.
Just like how this government has not capitalized on our molasses industry either. What happened to molasses? We have one of the highest quality molasses in the region. Here,
Import, man. Import government.
I don't know,
Mm.
but somebody please make some noise about that.
Amoy, one of the viewers is saying you're the next Minister of Agriculture.
Oh yes, speaking.
Yes,
Thank you very
definitely,
much.
definitely one
I
of the
agree
viewers.
with you.
And then they had a viewer that I think they mentioned that they have a cow and then a cow and a sheep,
Mhm.
and they want some help with the lambs.
Okay.
Yeah,
no
for
problem.
sure. And someone asked about your herbs.
Yeah, I do a little garden, a little piece of everything. But I don't get one buy them things. Shit.
Yeah.
Cut them and wash them off. Yeah.
Wash them off, cut them up.
Especially if you like cooking, if you're a foodie like me,
Mm.
I like to cook.
Mm.
I like to use fresh ingredients.
Go in the garden, I got peppers and things, hot peppers and sweet peppers. It's small space, but I do enough for my neighbors to come and pick as well.
Mhm.
And we have a good time.
Yeah, but the Minister of Agriculture was boasting of the purchase of 6 and then later 20 freight farms. I think
But-
Barbadians,
I don't know.
No,
but
but-
I'd like to find out
Mhm.
who got the contract
Mhm.
to provide those containers. Just asking. Is it one of his friends? I would like to know what feasibility studies were done. Did they do any? Or he just went on Google and was like, we do freight farming.
Yeah.
Which
Let me try
is
this.
probably what he did.
I really thought it was Fred, but he was going Fred farming. Fred.
Oh, no.
But you asked about a feasibility
Study,
study.
yeah. Have they done one?
But if you look at the I'm not gonna mention the whole project, but they're building houses, trying to build houses on land that they don't own and all. So you talk about feasibility.
But then that belly
Huh?
Ghana that they can't find.
That build shit to Ghana.
Instead they can't find them.
Then they
So,
bring in
uh-huh.
corrugated steel houses that only Chinese could put in, but the Chinese didn't get in.
So
I don't know.
so
It definitely is a problem across the board.
so I don't think they do much studies.
We
Right.
identified when we did our
Mhm.
research for
Mhm.
the budget response over 40 initiatives that this government started that we didn't finish.
Mhm.
I'm certainly the opposition will deliver them at some time.
Yeah, but even
About 40.
if we look at the Auditor
Mhm.
General's report from last year, when they were investigating the same Chinese houses, he mentioned that it was as a result, the failure of the project was as a result of several things. One of which was lack of due diligence.
Mhm.
Another was using unrealistic targets. Another was that there were not enough information that was coming in for them to be able to look and see what was going on.
Right.
So they were keeping information from the Office of the Auditor General so
Okay.
that he could not make a full and proper and clear assessment. And financial mismanagement,
Yeah, the millions in
And-
cost overruns.
millions and millions and millions.
And in case anybody believes that we will it's about surviving in harsh economic times and
Yeah.
to find somewhere to live is becoming more and more difficult in
Of
this
course.
economic time.
And the cost of
Too
living is
expensive.
continually
Yeah.
going that way.
Barbadians now into renting rooms as they did in the 50s and 60s. Barbadians, I'm talking about people coming to live here. I don't Barbadians, particularly men over 65, find themselves renting a room, sharing the same bathroom, and in some cases, a bed.
Mhm.
In 2025, we are back to where we were in the 50s and 60s.
And I
in
know
terms of our housing.
many people who have 2 and 3 jobs. serious.
Still can't make
They're
ends
working
meet.
during the day and coming home and working at night. And as Melissa said, still can't make ends meet.
Yeah.
You know, still got to hum the bubble and decide which electric bill getting paid, or we'll be doing this year, we'll be doing this month.
Yeah.
It is very difficult. It's very difficult.
I think the point I want to make before I forget this whole brand is that I listened to the minister responsible for something important. Something in people.
Kurt Humphrey.
And he spent in the estimates a long time talking about this fantastic car. Some car that God knows that to be able
You
to
mean
tell you
$300? That no.
some car, this magic car that you want to tell you all the social services
Oh,
together.
A card. Okay.
He was talking about
The smart car.
Smart
car. And I listened very carefully. The card, and I wish that somebody would tell me, does not benefit my 85, my 90-year-old mother. It does not benefit a person who has a challenge. What the card does is make it convenient for the social service agencies to track people's applications.
Yeah.
What we need, Mr. Minister, is a department of family that brings the services in one physical space, so that the person, whether you got one card or 40 cards, comes to one place, not welfare in St. Lucie,
National Assistance Board.
National Assistance Board,
Child Care Board.
Child Care Board in Fonty Bed.
Oh, you gotta do your license.
Right.
You gotta come back down.
The card is for the office convenience.
Yeah.
What we want is convenience for the applicant, where the services are available close enough that they can get all the services within one physical space, Mr. Minister. So keep the sweet talk to your friends.
Because I know about older gentleman, he's 90 years old, you know, and he refuses to use the digital, you know, what digital way it's called. He catches van or bus, and he goes down to the NAS building for his pension check. He didn't want that direct debit. He ain't got a clue was direct debit.
They're closed.
You know?
You go up, stop it. People go to Welch's.
Yeah.
Between 4 weeks to change the Welch's. Who closed Welch's? They have already closed the one in West Terrace. Then they closed the one there in St. Lucie. And the post office was not only a place to collect pension checks, buy stamps. It was a place for the elderly people to commune and to socialize. And I don't understand why they got the community centers doing absolutely nothing. And when they can put a safe area in there and 1 day a week. 1 day a week.
They found any volunteers for the community centers. They were advertising for some volunteers for to help in the community centers.
You know, that's not at all.
Yeah, that.
And I heard the community development chief, deputy chief, or acting chief said that they have people called key keepers, who have been functioning for years. For years. And you don't have to, you shouldn't go advertise for people to work in the community. You got to do the environment, and the people from the community ain't got volunteer to be part of what's happening. If you got a volleyball team, a netball team, a club meeting to discuss rationale or coaches, then each of them will form a committee. When you come in and go ask people to volunteer, it means that nothing is happening at the community center.
Of course.
It doesn't take Solomon to recognize that.
Yeah, because I went to one and then they shut up.
Shut down.
It is shut up. Shut down
Don't
and
get
shut
me
up.
started on community centers because I've been asking this government to fix the community center at Part-Time Christchurch since 2014. 2014? Yeah. And this, up to today, they had a grader that was coming to dig off the pasture. Talk again. This is again. So they fenced it. Very nice. I don't know who got the contract for that.
No, that's a big thing, no boy.
But they fenced the whole pasture. They gave the pavilion a roof. And what else? That's it. So if you want whole summer camps, those kind of things, the bathrooms want fixing, the changing rooms want fixing. You don't have a playing field any longer. And so the sports have stopped. You know? And that goes into community spirit and things as well. So, and that is missing, and it definitely, you can definitely feel the change.
When you have to go on television, national television, STBC, and beg people to volunteer to become managers at a community center, it makes a statement about the inactivity and youth of the community centers.
Yeah.
You should be deciding which of the people that are active on the committee. You should not be coming nationally and begging for people to join the committee. Don't give me a break.
You got that right. Unacceptable. So Melissa, as an entrepreneur, right? Well, first I can ask you about the challenges you face as an entrepreneur. And I think you're into the food business, that's correct?
Yeah, I'm a caterer.
Okay, you're a caterer, right? I know that obviously there are certain items that are not available and so forth. So what are some of the items that are available to assist you in your pursuit? And and what are some of the challenges?
All right, one of the major issues you would have seen in December, the shortage of eggs, the shortage of chickens, and there was also a slight shortage in fish. So if you have a lot of catering jobs to do, and you don't have these produce, how are you going to supply your client with what they need?
Yeah.
So that is one of the major issues that we would have gone through recently.
It's at the price too.
Yeah.
And
if you go to supermarkets now, one chicken is almost $30. When is the last time you saw a chicken for $20?
You mean a chick? Not a chicken, a chick.
Yeah.
But the one chick because the size of the chicken as opposed to the price, it's a big scam. Big scam. So I mean, I don't think that I get the sense that the government, they don't seem interested in small businessman. I get that notion from them. You in terms of setting up your business and so forth. What were some of the red tapes? Or was there any red tape? What are some of the challenges you
at
faced?
the time, no. This was since 2016. Things were running smoothly at that point in time. So I wouldn't say I had any red tape whatsoever. No, if you go to corporate affairs, many persons have a lot of delays in applying to get their company registered. They have put things online, but yet still you have to go into corporate affairs. Even though you do it online, you still have to end up physically in the building to get the process completed. And that has been a major stumbling block for new entrepreneurs. The time frame for getting your application pushed through, before you would have gotten it done for, let's say, 2 weeks. Now 6 weeks, 8 weeks go by, you call back corporate affairs and it still hasn't been processed. So that has been one of the major stumbling blocks currently.
So what type of foods you provide? What sort of foods you provide, really?
It's based on what the client needs. So that's basically it. Whatever the client needs, we provide.
Like some seafood, I get some.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a seafood lover.
Oh man,
I like some shrimp. Yeah.
Boy, lobster, shrimp, all right down the lane, I mean, in terms of getting seafood, how available is it?
And the cost of fish has gone up tremendously. Previously, you would have been able to get, let's say, marlin for $7 a pound. Now, if you get marlin for $11 a pound, you're lucky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So fish has been expensive, and if something as simple as marlin has gone up, you can imagine the price of shrimp, lobster.
I want to talk about flying fish. The price of flying fish, the price flying.
I could tell you.
You hardly see flying fish now. I remember when I was growing up, there was a truck that used to drive through the neighborhood. Say flying fish, and you go outside, you get, let me say, 100 flying fish for $20 or so. Now a flying fish is being sold for $3 for one. One single flying fish, $3.
When you retire it now, it's gonna be $12.
The people because
fish cut of that will be $10 or $12 for fish cut.
You found because of the rise in prices of inflation, you had to also raise your prices as well too. Yeah, considerably. Yeah. Okay, considerably. It is amazing how things just skyrocket, and it appears that it's happening every nanosecond. 1 minute you go in the supermarket, you're seeing say cheese for $5, and that minute you're seeing that same size, you know, for 10
Yeah.
next week, $10.
$10 does not go anywhere in
Even
the supermarket.
yeah, even like sweet potatoes.
Mhm.
You could have gotten sweet potatoes 50 cents a pound or $1 a pound a couple years ago.
Mhm.
2 years ago in December,
Mhm.
sweet potatoes were at $9 a pound.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Jeez,
imagine
brothers.
the
And the avocados. I don't know what it's looking like now. I don't know what is going on with the avocados.
I
the-
have no idea. I'm
Huh?
not an avocado lover.
I
Sorry,
look a shrivel tape ball,
I don't
a
eat avocados.
shrivel little ball, and
Mm.
they were very costly.
They're importing them.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
They're importing them.
Oh,
They're
man.
importing everything.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
This
Yeah.
government is an importing government. Importing.
Because
develop local strains and so on.
Mhm.
The easiest thing to do is to import, put on a markup.
Yeah.
Easiest thing to do.
It's unfortunate, but we are a country.
Because it's even the oranges, right? Now I realize they don't have any seeds. Now I don't know what it's going to be lab grown or whatever the
But it
case may be.
depends on what- I mean,
Huh?
they're importing them. I
Uh-huh.
don't think they really, to some degree, they're going to be concerned with what they're importing or the type of fruit or produce they're importing. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
they're importing them still.
Mhm.
So you're going to see all kinds of stuff, all kind of genetically modified stuff.
Yes.
Grapes without
Seeds.
oranges without seeds,
Yeah.
watermelon
Without
without
seeds.
seeds.
Oh boy, that
But
sounds
let me
good.
ask you this
Mhm.
question.
Mhm.
We were set internationally to be people who produce grapefruit. What happened?
You asking me? What happened? The same thing that happened, I guess, with the other projects or the other things. Same thing that happened with the Beijing cherry.
Yeah.
That got me so angry. How could you not produce
Yeah.
that? Yes, Miller. Yes, please. Please. Farmer Dujon has entered the chat.
Well, she ready for the hot thing.
Yes.
She ready for the hot stuff, man. Ready? Get in.
Green banana.
We're talking agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put some food because we need some food around.
Yes.
Definitely. Sugar cane. Sugar cane. Nice. Oh boy.
At least we still got some produce.
We got all right. Some sort of produce.
Yeah.
Man.
We got
Some sort of produce, man. Some sort of produce. Good evening. Welcome.
I heard you discussing agriculture. So
Yes,
I feel
that's
like we
correct.
passed through.
That's
Thank you very
correct.
much.
Yeah, I just
They come with them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's big one, you.
A lot.
you want the calabash because
Yes.
yes.
I don't
we
think
need
they
to
know
go back
what-
to our roots.
Calabash bowls.
What exactly?
I mean,
Yeah, what's a calabash?
What's a calabash?
I think some people don't want to know what it's calabash,
No,
but I know
what
what
used to tell us if you touch them or kick them, you get big hand or big foot. So as boys, the thing is to keep away from the calabash tree. But once they're dry, you use them to store. Some people eat out of them.
Yeah.
That's right. Calabash bowls.
And they were very popular. We can afford enamel, wireless, plate, and china and so on, crystal and them things. So it was the calabash.
What's the inside like?
You cut it out.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then
So you don't. It's not a vegetable. It's not a fruit.
No. I don't know what
Uh-huh.
it was any area. We kept away from it as children. And we were told don't kick them, don't hold them, and the parents wait till them dry and cull them out, and then use them to store and to eat out of.
There was something called a mummy apple.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness gracious!
We still have those.
We still do
Yeah.
Country.
in the country.
Yeah, I had two of those. I found two young ones in Joseph. They planted them. And my mother asked them, "Well, you clean around the place."
Yeah.
And the boy didn't know where they were, chop them down. Chop them down. They were getting them. That's nearly 10 years ago. There was a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
That was difficult with the mommy
Yes,
apple tree.
yes,
Is that
yes.
mommy apple tree was very, 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 very tall.
Yeah.
Very, very tall.
Well, I know. Good night to you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Well, I know you just come out the ground.
Yes.
Yes. Other than just obviously this evening, you just come with what I said.
Yes.
You dabble. You ever raising your animals or anything? Huh? You ever?
So-
You ever?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, we all are, and I think it's important that when we think about food security, that we remember our roots as well. So the calabash was also used as a utensil by our ancestors, and so we see quite a number of it. Still around. Rastafarians still use them. So the indigenous person. So I bought my usual sugar cane because we have our substance and our coconut, our green bananas, and it's important that we remember where we
I think
came
you should
from.
talk about belief.
Oh,
It's strong.
Yes, the bay leaf. A lot of persons use it I think in the islands we use it for tea, for herbal tea, and of course if you smell it, let's take a little
I like the cook
smell.
with it.
Oh,
Some people
yeah.
cook with it.
I use it.
Some people use it for porridge as well.
If you do cream of wheat, it might be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And bay leaves, the older generation knows quite a lot, and I even heard that when it's dry, you can actually burn it for the mosquitoes
Yeah.
as well. Yes.
Oh, that's a new
quite a
one.
number of
And
things that-
it can be interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
One of the traditions as growing up is when you ran, you know that 5 o'clock in the evening, you can't run about any house. Your mother put on some chocolate, do some dumplings, and put bay leaf in the chocolate. And you got, once you rain falling, you got dumplings and chocolate. And that was a tradition once the rain came down. And you can't remove them plate. It was chocolate and dumplings with bay leaves.
That's interesting because the only fond memories I remember was my grandmother dipping an Eclipse biscuit in tea or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
A lot of people with teeth used to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Wait,
standard.
You call it sap or
These
something.
Eclipse biscuits, not any Eclipse biscuits. These biscuits back in the 60s, 70s.
Yes.
Yeah, so
My Eclipse still high.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just told a bit girl.
Yeah, so the big girl.
Eclipse
There's these new
is
there's these new biscuits now. They're coated with cheese, or some sort of herb, like garlic, right?
Yeah.
Garlic.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's another addition to that.
I think it's important that as we speak about the high cost of living and food security, we also have to remember the role of farmers. And I'm quite sure you touch a lot of that.
Yeah.
That
Oh, yeah.
farmers do not get the type of credit that they should, the kind of recognition that they should get. And I think one of the most important parts when we were through the COVID pandemic, we understood the realities that we have to deal with. And I think it's important that we teach our young persons about farming and agriculture so that they understand what it is. And it should be part of our curriculum.
Yeah.
If we're talking about
You were
education,
There we go. Yes.
if we are talking about that, these are the kinds of things that we need to do. I think we
Yeah.
shouldn't start at secondary school level, but
Yeah.
also we can start at the earliest level to teach our children how to sustain their own communities.
Yeah.
And I believe every Caribbean person is a farmer because we have a small kitchen garden. Even though some of us are not great or have the green fingers or whatever it is, a green thumb,
Yeah.
the point is that we try to grow something, whether it's chives or celery or something behind, or even a lime tree, we throw a lime or something, a banana tree. It's something that we've always done in Barbados. Yes.
Easy to grow because you grow on the fence.
It's very important that we return to our roots so that we understand, because what we're seeing right now, and even with agriculture, we're seeing that we may not be able to sustain ourselves if we continue that way.
Yeah.
If we continue to give away our lands and
Yes.
do things of that nature, it becomes a very, very concerning future for our young persons.
I
And
said we have
it's
to
very-
produce or we will
Yes.
perish.
Yes.
Produce or perish.
the Prime Minister said that, but she don't practice it.
But I mean, why do you think the government is not serious about agriculture?
I think what should happen is that our ministers need to walk in the farm a few times They need to go in the farm and understand the realities of being a farmer, what it takes to be a farmer. I remember once we were canvassing and a young man was telling me about his struggles doing poultry and things of that nature, and the kinds of they don't get any kind of assistance. And so sometimes they have to take the little that they have, their savings, to create that other venture that they want. And people have to understand, without farmers, we don't exist.
Yeah.
Without farmers, we
Farmers
cannot exist.
carry
We
the
have to
backbone
eat.
of
It's
this
our,
nation.
we as human beings, we ought to eat. And if we don't eat, and if we don't have the people to help us to do that, then chances are we cease to exist. So I think it's important that we start recognizing the importance of farmers and give farmers the support that they need. Yes, we do provide them with the rebates, but remember, for you to get a rebate, you have to spend the money. And sometimes you don't have the money to spend to at least to recoup the rebate from the government. And sometimes it takes a little while. So the reality is that farmers, the very small farmers, have concerns, and we've seen before, even pig farmers right now are complaining that too much is being imported. And that what happens to the livestock? What happens to that? What happens to when you have produce and there's nothing else, you have no market for it? And I think the government right now, I believe I shouldn't even say the government, I think we as a party need to continue to advocate on behalf of farmers like we've done in the past. The Democratic Labour Party has had a very good history when it comes to farming and agriculture in this country, and also in terms of sustainability, which also leads me to the fact that if we are talking about nutrition and everything else, and we taxing this and we taxing that, we want to know what our children are eating in schools from the school feeding program. We want to know in terms of the budget estimates we're seeing in terms of our education, how much is being allocated for the food feeding program. But at the same time, how much of that budget is spent outside, meaning that how much do we produce on our own? And this is very much like what we're hoping to do, like have schools create their own farming structure. And I think it's very important that we think about that, because it's how we will continue to teach our children, teach the generation that is coming, that we need to do those things. We need, if you cannot feed your society, if you do not see the value of your society, then it tells you quite a lot of, what we think about in terms of that. So these are the kinds of issues that I think we really need to touch. We need to touch to the heart and pulse of the people. For us to sustain our societies, we need to have a growing and progressive agricultural sector.
We need to make it, and also make it attractive.
Yes.
Right? Make it attractive for younger persons. And we do that by starting from young.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you're not tuning in, this is DLP TV, surviving in these harsh economic times and food security. Yes.
Let me ask the question, are you the biggest farmer here? The small farmers as compared to you, right? What the position with CX?
Well,
You're a civil science person too. So tell me, how do you put this with CX?
I can't give you a response for that. I don't know, because the government has not informed the public about it. They had done what a period of time that the CX are not supposed to be harvest, and then they changed that, and then they came back and said something different. So we don't know. We know that CX is a part of Barbadian culture. But I guess I can't say so, because I know some Barbadians that do not eat CX. But CX and rice,
Oh man.
is a favorite for many Barbadians.
Oh, Melissa, you ever had any? Okay, because you've I mean, everyone on the table would have had some CA, right, at some point in time.
I mean, I agree with them saying a certain limitation and control, because we have to, because in order for it to be sustainable for generations to come, right? But as usual, you need to tell us, and they need to be clear about what they're doing.
It's the only, except for fish, it's the only seafood that doesn't make me sick.
That doesn't make you sick.
Okay. All the others, but I can eat CX. So I stop eating CX also, because I know the risk.
So Melissa, I know you're younger. You've ever had any CA?
Yeah, I've tried it. Yeah, from St. John. So
acquired taste.
absolutely hate CA. Food has a better taste.
And you got them badly done.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see when I grew
They
up,
should be fresh and smell it.
when I grew up, we used to break them off, raw, hit them, take out the egg and eat them raw. When they grew up, that's all we had.
Yeah, but from your knowledge, right? There's any programs where agriculture is concerned in the schools?
Yes, there are a number of programs in the schools. I have also witnessed where you have non-profit organization encouraging young persons to plant in the schools. The Boy Scouts do it as well. They do it quite often, and I would encourage a lot of parents to get your children involved in those activities, Boy Scouts, whatever kinds of activities, because it's really helpful for them. It teaches them a number of things, and these are the kinds of areas I think is important. So we not only encourage them to plant food, but also, plant flowers and things like that, because it's a science behind it. And I think that's something that we forget, that agriculture is a science. There's a science behind it. And we have to often forget that part of it, because a farmer has to know exactly when to plant, how much to plant, look at the weather patterns. And of course, you also have to look at in terms of the soil quality as well. So all of those matters are very important. I think sometimes people tend to diminish different areas because they think that there's no knowledge base behind it. And so if we look at an area like agriculture, it's an ancient skill that has continued to pass for generations. And I think it's very important that we understand that. And if we teach persons those skills and teach them that this actually is science behind it, it's very important. I remember even because I grew up from a generation of farmers as well. My grandparents were farmers. My mom, when she came to the city, she changed her mind. But farming has always been something that has been very dear to my heart, because it's therapeutic as well. When you come from a hard day of work and you put your hand in that soil, everything changes. Everything changes for you, because it connects you to a spiritual element as well. And I think people need to understand that. I think they're Samuel Jackson Polytechnic has a wonderful program, because what they do also is that they encourage the students to do internship across farms on the island. So I would encourage young persons. There is a number of programs that they could, and I just believe that because of how we look at agriculture and other fields, not being a scientific environment, persons tend to diminish it, because you don't want to be in the farm, you don't want to be with the dirt, but it's the dirt that feeds us, and so that's some of the things that we need to think about in terms of how we make it, as our comrade has said there, how we make those fields attractive, because we have had parents that said, your older generation would say, I don't want you doing that. But it's what has sustained our societies for several decades and several years. So I think it's very important that those programs become programs within our education system, and not try to think of all the fluffy things that we can add. We need to return to our roots and remind our people, our children, what is important to us and how we can sustain our society in and of itself. So I think the program should be included, not only in primary schools, but also from early childhood. Teach them how to plant a seed, a basic seed. And I think some schools do it. A lot of schools do that. So it teaches them,
I was saying that.
So it teaches them.
School, very good.
Yes. So it teaches them. It teaches them the science, and also working together, working with nature, appreciating nature, which is something that we don't speak about, environmental science, and ethics, because we have to treat the environment with respect and dignity as well.
Of course.
It was called nature studies.
Yes.
Nature studies.
Nature studies.
Okay. Nature studies. Well, I think it's just the optics, right? The optics in terms of someone going into the ground being dirty, and so for some reason, how we were socialized, we see that as a low-end job. Now, I went into a bank, and this was a farmer. For sure, he was a farmer, all dirty and stuff. And the teller refused to pay him any attention at all, right? Refused to pay him any attention at all, right? Because he stereotyped.
The first time I was in a bank, I met Cole Williams. That was years ago. When I first had my first job in the bank. And I man come in the bank, look like he come out the I just watching, I admire this man, and I say, this man got to be making money. So all the people come in here looking
Yeah.
so
Hard workers.
Yeah.
But
Hard
they
workers.
think, but
inspired.
that was your mentality. But people see, everybody in the shirt and tie and so forth, right? Collar and tie and so forth,
When I see a man like that, he working,
You understand?
on boots, hands dirty, fingernails dirty,
Yeah.
shirt dirty. That's money there.
Working.
Yeah.
1974, I was responsible for receiving cash. And had a old gentleman from down by where people learn the church thing, down in John. We college.
College.
And he had like 5 acres of land and he had paying the bank for. He came up every month, paid a large sum of $2 every month. And every month, it was a lady called Miss Jones, who was senior clerk. His name is Lovell. He would bring some kind of produce for those 2 ladies. He came up in his working clothes. He got 2 buses, brought his $2, or the company would pay $5, and then he would pay 3 months, he paid $3. But he had a commitment for that, say for $2.80. But he would come and pay every month. And then it was a government aided program for those farmers. And that was 1972, between 1972 and 1970, when they were agriculture. I told the National Bank afterwards, and I don't know what became of it. It was back in the 70s that program.
Well, I don't know. There's a CXC. There's a degree. What in terms of getting into agriculture, in terms of getting that degree, etc.
There are a number of programs in agriculture, but I think we just have to promote it, and I think the schools need to promote it when we do those outreach to the secondary schools, primary school. And I think there's something else that we're missing. We do more outreach in secondary schools than not primary schools, and it tells us. So it tells us as if the young persons may not have an idea of what they want to be, but you find children as early as primary school have some idea that I would like to become this, I would like to become a farmer or pilot or police person. We have career day for them where we get them to dress up, but we don't encourage them to look at those kinds of careers. And I think it's very important that we as a society start looking at that. The Ministry of Education has a number of tasks to endeavor, and then they need to think critically as to how we get young persons to encourage them in the different fields and not wait until the problem that we have, we always talk about the 11 plus, but because you make children think that 11 plus is the end of all of it and not let them see that their careers and have those kinds of discussions. So we should not stop career day for just one day. We should have continuous, have persons come to the classrooms and speak to the children, have farmers, have persons in the different fields to let children know and let the young people know that there are areas that you can be a productive part of your society. Yes.
But I don't like to go back to 1970s and 80s, but I mean, the 11 plus, when they did the 11 plus, that was, Lord have mercy, 60 somebody. We used to do nature study.
Yeah.
We used to do history, scripture.
Yes.
But the 11 plus was there, but we still did those things. We still had a little garden at Eagle Hall first, and then Wesley Hall. So we were connected to those things.
Correct.
And therefore, I'm saying is, I mean, the curriculum has widened, but we still need to find ways to connect our primary school children to their life.
Yes.
We have a Ministry of Agriculture. I don't see how or why we can't have persons from the Ministry of Agriculture go to the schools, set up the program. Even if they want to use one school as a pilot and they test it out, they run the program, and then you gradually put it in every single primary school. And we start from there, whether it be chickens, sheep, rabbits, it will develop the character of the child, you know, help them teach responsibility, help them, I don't know, develop a sense of apathy and care for animals. Hopefully that would extend to humans.
Yes, yes, and it should.
And we, you know, and I think people feel like always harping on this government's behavior. I'm from Deacon's Road. We are attached to the Deacon's Primary School. We had a project called the Deacon's Development Project in the farm. We provided space for the primary school to do agriculture. The government shut down the program.
Oh boy.
Closed it down. We had an orchard, cherries, stuff we saw.
Bajan cherries?
Yeah. No, we had a mixture. We had a mixture. But we had an orchard. It's still there. It's still there. In the back, we had limes, bananas, figs. And we cleared the whole canal about 50 yards. The bush and plant figs, bananas, right behind the primary school. The children came over to do the agriculture on the project, and the government closed it down.
But that is indeed unfortunate.
I think they just don't care. They don't. I don't think that they know how serious this food. I don't think so. I was called by one of the guys down there, said that the Ministry of Youth Affairs or the Department of Youth Affairs went back to the project looking to restart it after closing it down 2019. Sending home the staff, locking it off, leaving just the gym where it was, the equipment in the gym room belonged to the community. That's the only space that was used from 2019 until now.
Yeah.
Over $1.1 billion has been spent on that facility to bring it from a closed down facility up to an active community where skills training did 7 or 8 disciplines. Agriculture was done. I got that yet. To talk about that really depresses me. I even like that.
Well, that's it. One of yours loving your look. Felicia, loving it, man, loving it.
Well,
Fantastic.
you know, this, if I could, this is banana leaves, right?
Yes.
So what we call pie banan. In St. Lucia, we call it pie banan. And yes, of course, I have my boots. So let me come out. Let me show you. I'm not playing today. You know,
She was not playing. She was not playing at all. Not at all.
I have my farmer's boots here too. So when I go to the field and do my farming, and then I couldn't bring the Collins because these days, but you have your stick and you go to the farm and you walk with your stick and you're clearing the land at the same time. And sometimes you walk and notice because monkey running something. These are the things the joys that you get in agriculture. And I think that's the part that people don't remember. It's a lot of hard work, but there's a joy to it.
It's worth it.
And there's a joy to it. And when you put a little plant and you start seeing it blossoming.
Of course.
So all of these things, and one of the things that I learned as a farmer is that, and I'm a licensed farmer too.
Yes.
So
Me too.
what
I did not know that.
is that a market is always a concern because you plant in and sometimes you do not know what your harvest would look like. And then when you get multiple harvests and fruitful harvests, you're very happy about that. So what I would do, I would sell whatever I could, and then you could donate to schools, which is very important, whether it's preschools and things of that nature. So I think it's very important that they shouldn't have any excuse in 2020, in the 21st century, where a school does not have a farm on campus. We have enough land. Most schools have enough land to put a small kitchen garden.
I was just about to ask
so that
that.
children understand what those roles are, what is your role and responsibility, because it's not even a matter of gender anymore, because both men and women are in the field. And so we teach young persons about that. You need to know how to sustain your family and your community. So you teach that very early. So they should have no excuse why we have all these flowers, and I love flowers. we should have a banana tree, a plantain tree, a cane tree, or something on campus or at the various schools so that children understand. And I think they really need to learn those things so it doesn't seem too abstract for them when we speak about agriculture or feeding a nation. We tell our children that we eat what we grow. Okay, but then they go to school, they don't see anything there. They see
I like to
practically.
take that seriously, eating what we grow.
Yes, but we
Because
need to do that.
if
We
you
need
ask
to do
any
that.
of the primary school children now what they get for school meals,
Yes,
they
yes.
can
Oh,
tell you
no.
the same thing that
Oh,
people
no.
can get. For
Oh,
school meals
no.
now. I don't know. A lot of them might eat the patty, but what the patty made out of, my 11-year-old say, Mommy, I don't know. But that's what
No, and I think we need to do that. We need to, and I hope the minister responsible for education transformation, that he also, although they were looking primarily at the curriculum, I think there's more than a curriculum.
Which one?
At some point,
I don't have a clue. I was trying to figure out which one. I don't know.
whichever who's ever is responsible, that they take a look. I have received numerous concerns about the new food, the new menu, teachers and students as well. And I think that it's about time that we cook what we grow.
Yeah.
We don't just say it, but we practice it. It's something practical and pragmatic at the same time. That if we're saying to our children that we eat what we grow, that they when they come, they see cocoa, breadfruit, plantain, green banana, cuckoo. They see a fish, they see chicken, they see things that we grow, things that they're familiar with. I have no other. It's of course we have to have diversity in terms of what, but I think it's important that whoever is responsible to look at what our children are currently being fed.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that if you're seeing that the children are complaining, the teachers have concerns as well. A number of teachers have pulled me aside and spoken to me on those matters. They've changed the menu, but yet still it's very concerning. It's very concerning. I think as Caribbean people, as Barbadians, we want to ensure our children eat healthy. So if we give them a good meal so that they could be content.
It's not what the children are
No.
getting.
So I see. Well, even in the menu itself, and I think it's very important that when we go to Parliament, we see the menu, we see what is being eaten. Okay, so if the ministers have certain meals, then I think our children deserve that too. I think that our children deserve to eat well and be taken care of well as well. So I think it's very important that we look at those. It's not only about educating their minds, but ensuring that our children are healthy and comfortable, because for some of them, this is the only meal for them. It's a safe environment for them. They feel that it's a safe space. And so I think we need to, if we are investing so much millions of dollars in the school feeding program, I think the children need to eat well. So
don't you think that there needs to be some effort at the secondary level? I mean, I know some of these secondary schools are forced now to do breakfast.
Because of of course, the hardship that they're dealing with right now. Not, if they're experiencing it at the university level, I would also consider. So secondary students are not immune to the hardship as well, because they all come from the same household.
I mean, 20 and 20.
So I think we should try to encourage that. And if you don't have that money, then what happened to the student?
You got to find $20 or $25 every day to stay in your secondary school boy or girl.
No, and it's difficult. Well, the Democratic Labour Party will consider all of those matters. We want to ensure that the student is dealt with holistically. The student lifestyle and experience is very important. It's not having good curriculum, but also in terms of how they because if we're teaching them that kind of, they would expect and appreciate what we do for them.
Before the matter I wanted to into the discussion. We're coming up, and they don't want us to wait until summer program comes. But we need to have a summer program.
Yeah.
We're capable to go and spend organize 6 weeks or 8 weeks in the summer camps.
Correct.
The government came in and the money what was being done shut it down first.
Yes.
And over the last year and a half, since COVID, they've been trying to get it going again. There was a program where the caterers would provide meals for kids and so on, and the ministry would pay for those meals. The last year that I attended one, I go and do sections, some of the camps. the meals were off.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
meals were off.
Okay.
And I hope, and we're talking about surviving
That's economic times. Yes.
And I hope that we should be giving warning to the government, asking them as they plan for the summer camp coming up.
Okay.
Please provide good, wholesome meals for those kids, and do not charge them.
I'll do a walk around. I will do.
Remember you mentioned something. You got on your running shoes this year.
I have
for sure.
boots now. I
We're
have
going to
boots
boots so you
now.
take them off and do
I
some
will-
running.
Yes, I think it's important.
And do some running
and
for
thank
sure.
you for sharing that
Yeah.
intervention. It's important
Mhm.
that we become aware. And I think that's what the public expects us to do as the opposition as well, that we ought to ensure that the needs of persons are addressed and persons are aware
Mhm.
of what those needs are. And if there is a problem with that, we will definitely look into it to ensure that it is done.
Because if you look at some of the ministers when they first came into office to know, in terms of how they've grown, right? They're well fed.
Yeah.
They're well fed. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
They're well fed. So our children should be well fed
Yes,
as well.
and I think
I agree.
yeah,
Mhm.
they
I mean,
deserve
everybody
it.
talks about breakfast is the most important meal of the day,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but some children don't get
No,
breakfast.
they don't.
Some children don't have money to buy lunch.
Mhm.
Some children don't get lunch
Mhm.
because, unfortunately, but I don't know, I can only speak from my experience. There are times when the school meals gets to my son's school late,
Yeah.
and it's after 2.
No,
And
no.
sometimes
Oh, boy.
when the school meals get there, the food is cold.
No.
Oh boy.
No, my grandson, on the other hand, he is closer to the school meals department.
Mhm.
So he is one of the first schools that gets the food dropped off. So
Mhm.
his food is warm.
A regular.
But what food he's getting,
Yeah.
a lot of the others might not get because he's the
Oh,
first
first
off.
off. Okay.
So whereas he may see a fruit, my
The
son
others
don't
not
see no
gonna get.
fruit.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
So they're like,
Oh,
"This
boy.
get fruit?"
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then my grandson be like, "But we only get apple every now and again.
Mhm.
But at least it's getting now and again."
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like, for the schools that are further away from the
They're
department
not
now,
getting it.
they're not getting it at
Okay,
all.
well, thank you for,
Right.
thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
because it has been a concern. And as I said before, I hope that the minister responsible for that sector looks at that because we spent millions of dollars for the school feeding program. We had a building in St. Philip for the school feeding program, which would have helped, and they shut that down as well. They haven't done anything to it, and that building is actually going to rot. So these,
meal section that they was constructing.
Yeah.
yes, so
And I don't think they give milk. Once upon a time, they used to give the little cartoon the milk. Children.
But if they ain't got the milk, they can't get it.
That was they
Of
do
course,
it.
of course.
right. So I will definitely look into that. It's important that we look at all those areas, not only in terms of curriculum, in the terms of the transition, security of students, but the school meals have been a concern for me for a while. We have spoken on it, and we don't seem to get any kind of much feedback. It's as if the government is not too interested in how our children are being fed.
Yeah.
And
Not at
I
all.
believe that
Not at all.
I
Not,
believe that
Boy, you want to ask a question before you go?
not at
and
all.
I believe that children deserve that. We speak about the nutritious value of our students and wanting our children to eat well, and we were concerned about high obesity and all of those concerns, but at the same time we're not doing what is expected of us as a government, as a responsible government.
I'm on before I know you have to be leaving us for a little while, but I see mangoes dropping down, grapefruits dropping down. What can be done? And they're just wasting. Book it down, book back to the road. The drop off young. That's
I know, Derek, my mangoes don't waste. So I don't know. I can't have an act, but you mean in terms of the government? Well,
Yeah,
what?
I mean, once before the program sending breakfast to Canada. I used
Really?
yes.
We importing breakfast? No.
Oh boy.
Madness.
Oh
I
boy.
just drop off and buy them
We
breakfast.
Madness.
And the guy is the principal at secondary school. And I had another guy who's connect. I used to send them to Canada.
Mm.
I mean, and it wasn't the fact that I getting money for them. It was just that they were not wasting. Because breadfruit tree down there 2 today and 2 tomorrow. When breadfruit's in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so once they come in, they tell the man come and get a bag
Yeah.
and go.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if you know what that program is still possible if it's going, if
I
the
can
market
tell
is
you,
available?
I probably not.
Right.
In this climate and this type of hostility towards agriculture on a whole, more than likely not. I think a couple of years ago they started planting breadfruit trees up Sunbury.
Yes, the company
Right,
Sure.
the dwarf tree.
But I never
right?
seen banana on the
But I never
bread.
seen breadfruit on them either.
But they were burnt.
They
Yeah, they get
burnt.
burned.
Okay, well,
Probably because of where
there
it's
you go.
located as well.
Mm.
That would have been a concern.
Another thing is that the ackee and saltfish is a very popular dish now in Barbados. I really wonder why the ministry and all this million trees that they were supposed to plant. Was it 1 million or 2 million? How much they were supposed to
Boy,
They need to plant fruit trees.
lots.
And they
Lots,
come up with
lots.
all these
Yeah,
quick fix projects.
and if they ever thought about finding a way to make ackee trees available to people so that they can plant them, because very early after, I think 3, maybe 4 years to get ackee.
Yeah.
And they are expensive. And if we can plant some more of those trees,
And it's very easy to grow.
it can become
I guess maybe it wasn't so much in our, I don't know, in our cultural palette, Barbadians per se. I know a lot of Barbadians that didn't know what it was.
right.
And I guess, I don't know,
Fear
maybe
they can
exposed.
poison you and
Yeah,
people are afraid of
But
it.
it can kill you
Right.
if you don't clean it properly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know how to clean it.
Mm.
So they depend on buying the
The
canned
canned.
version, which is about $33.
Wow.
So, I mean, for somebody like me or maybe Felicia, that knows how to clean the fruit itself and when it is edible from when it is not. So the ministry might be a little, if the ain't growing Bajan cherry trees, you think they're gonna really grow Jamaican ackee trees out there for people? No.
Yeah.
Let me grow Bajan cherries first. Let's start there, right?
And with the name, citrus, the citrus one,
The grapefruit.
Shut up.
I see a lot of
Shortage of those.
I see a lot of guys on the side of the road. They sell juices. This is, I don't know if it's a new crave or whatever the case may be. They sell natural juices.
Where you live?
Right?
What do you mean juices?
Hold on, they sell natural juices,
Been
right?
doing that for a while.
Natural juices.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there are certain fruits that aren't obviously what they call it, in season, right? And they, for some reason, they're still able, or somehow they're still able to
And
sell.
what do
that
you
for
think that is?
What is there's what artificial, obviously, little powdering. What exactly?
Concentrate.
Like concentrate.
But one of the things that I really admire, since you spoke about young persons, I see a lot of young men into agriculture, and I think that's another thing that we need to think about, getting our youth, particularly our young males, into that field because they enjoy farming. Sometimes you'd see them selling the breadfruit, oranges, whatever that it is, and I think it's something that we need to think about the interests of our young persons, because we tend to see, well, many of them are just on the block, but sometimes if we give them some land where they can actually do something with it. Not only just give them the land, but also have mentors, have persons in the field, farmers, specialists in the various fields that can come and teach them and guide them. Because I think every farm has an officer that guides you as well. So I think it's very important that if the government is really thinking about how can reduce crime and everything else, that we give them some kind of opportunity, because this is what the government should do: give opportunities to our young persons, see what the interest is in those various areas, whether it's in terms of planting lime. I met a young man who plants different crops, what we call short crops at particular times, so sweet peppers, tomatoes, and he does that. And I think it's very important to give that kind of support where it's needed, and not say, well, the young persons are not finding anything. It's our responsibility, it's the government's responsibility to provide opportunities for persons. You cannot say persons are just idle, doing nothing and engaging in crime when you have not provided the opportunities that will strengthen whether the career paths for them or even their interests. And so I think it's very important to look what we can do, as opposed to just taking up land and building hotels, but we can also look in terms of providing our land to our people so that they can be they can contribute to our economies as well.
I also want to urge you, the Amoy sits up in Sears Court, where the Barbados Youth Service was 2006. building a dormitory.
Yeah.
For the internship and
Yeah.
the program, and there was supposed to be land to do agriculture program in that facility. So we may need to compete, because now when the government has spaces that they're doing work, they put yards and tell you we're not welcome, you can't come around. You can't believe it that in Barbados, government project is
I'll
happening.
put it on my to-do list.
Right,
Yeah.
people are because
You said 2006.
2016.
Yeah.
2016. Okay,
the project was
2016.
started and
Wow.
it's the new service, what they call them now, the new advanced core,
Yeah.
all over Barbados. Some of them in Dujon, some in Diggin, some of them in this place.
Right.
And there's no doubt, and that internship, that program is one critical part of the experience of being in the youth service.
Yes, and I think it's important that we have to, as I said before, it's the state responsibility. The state has that responsibility to provide the opportunities for our citizens, especially the young ones, the impressionable ones, that you do that for them. And perhaps we can cultivate more farmers in our society and not disfranchise them, because we have a generation of older farmers. If you go around, you'll see a lot of the older generations are into farming. We need to encourage our young persons into the field, because if we are
Fishermen as well too.
yes, and if we have to sustain our society, it's about sustainability, but at the same time, we're not doing what is required of our society. We're wasting millions of dollars in things that are not necessary when we still cannot feed our own societies. And these are the factors that we need to press on the table and ensure that the government understands how serious this matter could be in the next few years.
Because
your area up there, below the airport is a rich agricultural area. And the
Christchurch East on a whole is
right,
and
and the service headquarters are being built up behind the airport by the police training school up there. And I'm saying that in the proximity there should be
that project was
opportunity.
under the Democrat.
Oh, pardon? Say again? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh man.
And they changed the name of the Barbados to service the
Oh, boy.
And they didn't advance it at all.
Of course.
But the problem is the location is really good, and it is in a farm agricultural belt. And I think that should be made to tie that facility into the community and get agriculture as part of the experience.
I used to see a lot of roast corn
on the street.
On the street. That is something that you still see a lot.
I don't know. I know Rihanna like roast corn. I like roast corn too.
I think maybe
but I
having
haven't
the short
seen it.
is the corn.
Like a lot of other things. But
Corn though is imported corn.
a lot imported corn too.
Yes.
But I mean, remember roast corn was a thing for me on a
That's
Sunday.
Bajan corn we used to roast it.
Yes.
Bajan corn.
Yeah, on a Sunday after, I think Sunday evening.
Yeah.
My father would take it.
Every 200 yards, somebody roasting corn.
Yeah. So that is something that Sunday the past.
They
Yeah.
had a gentleman that used to be down in Warren's, but as you come off the roundabout there in Warren, I don't see him.
Right, you don't see them anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, if you don't have the Bajan corn to roast, you can't have roast corn.
Yeah, you got that right.
You're bringing in them, and you use them boiled corn now.
I see this thing, but the government now has price checks. Now, price checks, a price checks app. When you can go, So my thing, that's what I'm saying. So they don't want you wait now till you get these supermarkets for a headache. You can now receive a headache
From home.
from any time, but any place, anytime. And
I know that to be so funny.
I mean,
get these clumpings.
what is it? What is really
If
for?
the market is selling a golden apple for 80 cents, and you check the price, what are you going to do? You can change the price?
But that's what I'm saying. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around what is the real reason. Why, what is significant
I don't
of
know
it.
if I go carry $100 or if I go carry $700 or how.
You mean don't want you to get
Oh,
embarrassed
it's a benefit.
when you get to the cash register. Don't want to embarrass you. So it's stop you from getting bar.
Or they're looking at, you don't have to drive a particular thing.
Unless
It's
they
a
price
fuel
checking.
situation.
Let's say price checking, supermarket A against supermarket
Yeah,
B.
that's what it is.
To
They get you
determine
the price
whether or
at
not.
different
So
stores.
I ain't got
If my she's selling sugar at 60 cents a pound and eggs at $2,000, so I had to get there and pick the sugar from there.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
How many times going to gas and still at it?
And the other question is how well it's updated.
Yeah.
You can see
Some of
the
these
thing on
things
the
that
stock.
government comes up with,
Uh-huh.
to me, is just
It's just ad hoc.
I don't
I
I don't think so. I also
Reaction.
think
Reaction.
I also think is who's getting paid to do those apps.
Yes.
that too.
That too.
Yes, somebody has to be paid to
Yes,
do
yes.
and formulate those apps, but isn't it also the government's responsibility to know if those supermarkets, the price, exactly, price gouging? So that's their responsibility. They
Price
seem to
control
be
officer.
passing those responsibilities to citizens and not doing the work that we, charge them with.
Like the myriad of consultants that they have.
You're right.
Yeah, because
You do not knock on consultant.
yes.
You get moved from a consultant to a minister.
Yeah.
The road to minister. So please.
You mean any barbers never
The
find
Barbados
this
Labour
government.
Party, yes.
madness.
Because before I knock something,
That's who Preston was talking about.
well, boy, because again, before I knock something, I always try to be thought provoked. I always try to be devil's advocate.
Mm.
So I tell myself, why is this being done? This whole price check thing and so forth. And I tell myself, I gotta ask somebody else. Because really and truly, it wasn't making any sense.
We need to ask how much it costs us to make
Well,
those apps, and I
that's
think
another
that's
thing.
the other
And to
question.
maintain.
How much did it cost us and how much it will cost us in the end? Because we've seen a few apps. I think there was an app where you
Mhm.
could have, if you saw students exhibiting violence outside school, you would go on the app and report them or something
One
like
time
that.
we had
It was millions of dollars,
Yeah.
and we haven't heard anything about it
We had
again.
truant police
Yeah.
one time. That their main job was to be in town. And if you in town and you school uniform after 9 o'clock, it is problem.
School attendant
You
officer.
understand? No, we have them things.
There's still a few, but I don't think that we have enough of them. I was either hard, I saw the black officer, but he's not a black anymore. Moved the police station into the post office, the shut down the post office, and the library. And the policeman came up and he see children after they jump on, but
Yeah.
it was so funny to me. It
Yeah.
was so funny. Police come to the office and look around straight on for the bus.
But it's good. It shows that they respect authority as well. And I think we need to do that.
Get the police and bring them going young and the boy was concerned about.
Yeah.
And so I got to ask this question as well too. We in Barbados, we have enough land though. We have enough land. That's the
We
question.
gave it, we giving it.
We giving it away and converting it for housing.
Come on, man. We get to give away acres. Acres. Not to build a hospital, to build a bank and that. We give it to people.
So we gotta get serious.
And they made this research on the bank, a Freddie or a Freddie bank.
I can't pronounce it, so I don't even try.
And they recognize, they realize on the internet, and they go, it's called fact check it. Jamaica and Trinidad expressed concerns about getting involved.
Oh boy,
High interest rates.
No, I got
that's interesting.
I got a point. They got fact check that. But I saw it, checked today on the internet. From yesterday, I was checking it, and I saw Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica express concerns about getting involved in Fred Trick Bike.
Yeah. And the Comrade Thorne also raised concerns as well too, as the property
Right.
that the bank is going to be on
Mhm.
and the increasing value
Yeah.
of that property.
Yes.
And the fact that not one single Barbadian will have any equity in that.
I just remember something. They had a Guyanese bar about a few yards from there. I went there. I used to go there on Sundays.
It's green. It's green.
I can't remember what color, maybe red.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
know. And the guy closed down.
So
I only recognize now it's because of that project.
that's where they have the I think they have a big piece of board
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that used to really share a lot of vibes, you know. That used to be-
Some Guyanese friends.
Yeah.
I would close down and they
Yeah.
don't recognize
Mhm.
the connection with the closure.
But that was in the this agreement was already done and dusted.
People
Done and
already,
dusted
the African
a long time.
environment is already. The environment is
Yeah.
already.
But they said the government said that it will provide hundreds of thousands of jobs.
But for who?
But there we go.
The
There we
Ghanaian
go.
people?
You know, so that was their rebuttal.
And that's what the
You know?
Trinidad and Jamaican people express concern about,
Mhm.
about the employment opportunities and the jobs that are being provided and who are going to benefit in terms of the jobs and at what level.
So if those two governments can raise concerns, what our government is doing, there wasn't any concerns raised at all.
Well, our concern was which land to give them.
But I if I may add on this matter, I think there's a more serious concern here because in 2023, when the government purchased the property at St. Ursuline's Convent, initially it was for schools. That was the plan. The government informed us and had told us and promised us that 2 secondary schools, additional secondary schools, will be built in that location. So the concern that I personally have is what would happen with those promises that she made to that we would have built schools there. So yes, we understand that the school at the garrison is relocated, which is fine because that was part of the plan when you bought the property, because St. Ursuline Convent is a private entity and the government purchased the property. So it's just fine. You said it would be schools and we agreed to that. The citizens agreed to you with that.
Concerned about a promise that Ms. Molly made.
Well, I was just
No, it's not that it's
right?
only a promise that they made, because I value promises.
You
I
do.
value it.
used to.
I value promises.
Yes,
Yes, I know it's a comfort.
Because that promise will be treated like every other promise.
No, but what is also important to me is that what are we saying to our citizens? That we wanted to ensure that we are building schools for our children on that property. This is why you told citizens we have the property and why we're purchasing the property. And now we haven't heard anything about the 2 schools that should be built there. All of a sudden we're hearing about banks. And I think it's very important that Barbadian citizens look into it in 2023. The government did say this is what they're using the properties there for. And I think it's very important that we understand that the government was supposed to partner with some American company or organization to build those schools. So what happened with that project?
Every other promise.
It's an illusion to be
Felicia, the Prime Minister said that a cabinet of 16 was too big. And therefore implied in that comment would be that she would not have a cabinet that big.
Yes, it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing.
And she almost doubled it.
Extremely
But she had it that big.
disappointing.
It was bigger. She had it that big. She was right.
I mean, so anything
didn't
that
have it that big, it was bigger.
is for the time.
Yeah.
It's the time, you know, and the environment changes.
Yes.
And therefore, you know, every time it changes.
Yeah.
And therefore, Ms. Molly changes her mind. And we have to live with it.
Well,
Barbarians are
yeah,
expected
yeah.
to live with it.
And not have a say to it, and not have a say.
And yeah, when you open
Right.
your mouth, you are critical of Ms. Molly, and you don't like the government, and you are pushing the DLP ticket when you speak the truth.
But comrade, what I also want to say that yes, we understand that their agreements, whatever agreements is with the bank has already been done. But I would like to know if those 2 secondary schools will still be
Don't
built.
hold your breath.
And where,
No.
and where it will be built, because this is some of the areas that we want to speak. But again, I think Barbadians have the right to know that.
We were supposed
They
to
need
build
to
a
know
school
that.
upstairs court on
Yes.
the highway. In those days, opening those new developments to support
Right.
the influx of population that has been abandoned.
Yes.
And companies saying
Yes.
the houses
Yeah.
on the same property.
More houses on that.
Well, what I could tell you is, boy, time really flies when you're having fun. This was a fantastic, robust conversation. Boy, yeah, time really flies. But what I'll do is give everyone last words. Yes.
We just have to take agriculture more seriously, be self-sufficient, and start importing as much food as we are currently importing, and get our import bill done. Encourage our students to get involved with agriculture from a young age, and also grow our gardens at home.
Okay, and I just want to add that one of the things that I really enjoy seeing is our spokesperson for agriculture giving fruit trees to community members. And I think that's what we as Barbadians need to do. Start planting food, sharing food, give somebody a plant if you can. If you have a banana tree, an extra banana tree, give it to someone. Because those fruit trees will last a very long lifetime sometimes for some person. So let's continue to sustain and put the pressure where it's needed on this government to do right by the people. Thank you.
Boy.
And I agree with both comrades. And, you know, we have a thing in Barbados, or I guess in Caribbean, you don't give to get, right? And that definitely was the furthest thing away from my mind when I started to give out these trees. Actually, that started because my mother wanted a Bajan cherry tree. And I could not find any. So I went about looking for plant nurseries, people who had trees. I went down and I was looking for a Bajan cherry tree. And in my search, I was donated trees. Someone gave me trees, not Bajan cherry, but almost 140 trees. Now, what was I going to do with all of those trees? I wanted to share them with the community. And I did so. And one thing that I found very rewarding, 2 days ago, a gentleman brought a soursop tree for me. And in my plight in asking for a Bajan cherry tree, persons responded to me on Facebook. I have a gentleman in St. Philip that I have 7 Bajan cherry trees to go and collect.
Oh, share them.
So you give, it will come back to you. You know? Yes. And I will continue my fruit tree initiative.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks to my mother that wanted a Bajan cherry tree. Right? I will continue it. I've had overwhelming support with respect to the fruit trees in general. And I like engaging with people, you know, and you have to do that if you're a politician. I don't really consider myself a politician, but if you're a politician, you have to engage with people. Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people keep asking about the Democratic Party and where is it going and what's happening. We're working very hard. But I just want to say we have been always driven with a great group of leaders. I believe that social justice was about giving not only those who need, but giving their due to those who deserve it. We all expect need. Some of us work hard and get nothing.
Yeah.
And part of surviving from these hard economic times is giving to people their due, what they deserve, not only what they need.
Felicia.
And that is what is missing in this government's agenda, and we pledge to change that philosophy.
Okay, man.
Well, you got that right. All right, so I want to invite everyone in Barbados to this fantastic march. Barbados for sale, heritage destroyed, concrete over culture, profits over people. Walls rise, beaches disappear. We both there. The 22nd of March.
See you there.
At 10 a.m. from Folkestone Beach to Holtown Civic Center. We give me both there. I want to invite everyone there.
You get pieces of sugar again.
That's you sure, right? And we will be eating parts of Barbados for sure. Not agriculture. So,
check it out.
good night to all. This is DLP TV. Good night. Are we eating cane? We eating cane.
They're drinking.